Well, welcome to Tansson TV Plus. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Mom.
Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yep, thank you for joining with us again.
You know we always love doing this. And Mom, how is your day going thus far?
Oh, Brandon, I'm having a good day. How about you?
Mom, all is well here. It's a great day.
Yep, that sounds wonderful, Brandon. And guys, are you guys ready? We have another first episode Friday, and our theme this month is mockumentaries. And so we are talking about the Muppets, the series.
Yes, there are so many different Muppet shows over the year, but this is the 2015 to 16 series, truly just titled The Muppets. And this first episode released on September 22nd of 2015, titled Pig Girls Don't Cry.
It sure is. And Brandon, this is just a very, very brief synopsis. Basically, this show, like I said, it's a mockumentary. So it's the dealings. This is the dealings of the star of the show, Miss Piggy, and the behind the scenes things that are going on.
Well, Mom, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, Brandon.
And overall, what did you think about this first episode of the series?
I mean, it was cutesy. I've always liked the Muppets, so I didn't have a problem with the show. And I think I've been trying to make you watch the Muppet movie for years, and so yes, I thought it was cute. I liked it.
Yes, I liked it as well. We did watch the series when it came on. And Mom, did you remember much of anything about this first episode of the series?
I don't remember a thing.
Well, I truly remember the fact that it was a mockumentary that I think at the time we were amused, but not I guess fully into it, just because it is a bit of a somewhat departure from how we know the Muppets.
It is, and and as we've discussed, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the mockumentaries, and so watching this, it made me think back a little bit in regards to how I probably perceived it at the time, not quite understanding exactly what a mockumentary was, but it was the Muppets, so I do enjoy watching them.
Yes, I definitely thought that this was. I mean, out of the mockumentaries that we had seen up to this point, probably one of the more humorous ones, more so on the part of the Muppets, and not necessarily the format. But I like that for whatever it's worth. While this is a different take on the Muppets than we're used to, is that I don't think it's really out of character for them, though.
No, this isn't out of character at all. I've seen the backside of the Muppets on several series that they've had, series or movies, and so this to me, like you said, it didn't it didn't differ from what they've already put out before.
Yes, and something I thought was nice about this too is because this was just only a couple years after the newer Muppets movie, I believe from 2011, where they sort of revamped the Muppets, which I did really enjoy that movie. It'd be great to revisit it one of these days, but all that to say though is I think that I was really able to sort of bring that momentum and try to make something different out of it. And for better or for worse, I think it sort of brought a new energy to the Muppets that we haven't seen, and some interesting discussions. For instance, how is the relationship between Kermit and Miss Piggy?
Well, I don't know if it's really different. They've always had their differences. And so this one shows they still have their differences. But at the same time, they get along but don't get along. It is just a combination of things with Miss Piggy and Kermit.
Yes, I like that we're able to sort of explore the relationship, and I do say I one of the things I do remember about the series when it was coming out was sort of all the promos that they had, and they had Kermit and Miss Piggy going to all of these different talk shows to promote the show, which I thought were hilarious. Um, but overall, what would you say are some of the strengths or weaknesses of this episode?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Well, guess the strength is it pulls from the history of the Muppets. And so, because it pulls from the history, you kind of know some of the behind the scenes things that are kind of going on with the Muppets itself. The only thing you don't know about are the personal stars per se. So, for example, the star of the show could have a history with Miss Piggy or with Kermit or with someone on the set. That part we may not know, but the history itself of the Muppets, you kind of know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what sort of makes this a little bit interesting. I mean, the Muppets, of course, have a long storied history, and so I think this is sort of a continuation of that. But I think it also sort of represents, in a way, that, yeah, for us having spoken about our little connection of the Muppets Mayhem a little bit later, that released just a couple years ago, is that um, I don't know if anyone really knows what to do with the Muppets, other than that everyone really, I mean, at least for me, speaking for myself, that we really enjoy the stories. The question is, what is the best way to tell a proper Muppet story?
It is, and they've tried all sorts of ways throughout the years.
But yes, I'd say a definite strength, I think, was showing sort of the personal relationships and what the Muppets do outside of work. For instance, this episode was about Fozzie Bear.
Yes, and this episode was about Fozzie Bear and about a relationship he has with a young woman and her parents, and so that was fun to see what was going on in his world and how the parents really reacted to Fozzie because they weren't too happy.
Yeah, so that was definitely humorous to see, and so I think that's definitely sort of a strength in seeing different sides of them. But I will say, I think a weakness is just trying to figure out, I guess, because there's not really an end goal per se, at least not to my recollection, other than trying to just get Miss Piggy a show. It's sort of like what we said for these mockumentaries, is that, because there's not really an initiating event per se, we don't know how to really, like, where we're going from here. Like, what are we going to expect by the end of the season?
Yeah, that's true. We don't know what to expect from the Muppets. We don't know where they're going. We don't know if there's a particular person we need to be concentrating on besides Miss Piggy. Those are things you just don't quite know by watching the first episode.
But Mom, I know, of course, we watched the series when it released, but would you watch the series again?
Um, Possibly. I am not running toward it. And so if it's on, it's on. If it's not, I'm not going to go toward the episode. I like to rate the series 1 to 5, 5 being the highest. I did give it a 3.5, but that's just because I like the Muppets and I kind of, and I did like what they did with the first episode.
I would have to agree with you. I definitely did enjoy the Muppets. Yeah, the series, of course, and of course the characters. But I don't know if this series or this episode really per se gave me anything new from them. I know it's a different take, and I know that we were seeing a sort of a different side of them, but I can't really say that this series or this episode in particular really made me think, "Wow, yeah, this gave me a new appreciation for the Muppets." Rather, it was just different, but not necessarily in a bad way.
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally, Brandon. I totally agree. I was going to ask if we had any connections.
Well, like I said earlier, we did speak about the Muppets Mayhem that released on Disney Plus just a couple years ago. One of the, I think, a few series of the Muppets that had released over these few years, the last 10 years or so.
Okay. Let's see, do we have any other connections?
Not necessarily connections to the best of my knowledge, although I will say I really enjoyed Tom Bergeron in this episode.
Actually, I did too. I did too. I got a kick out of him. Were there any other points that you want to talk about with the show?
Not necessarily. I'm just glad that we were able to sort of revisit this series, this mini series. I think that we have watched over the years that are very short-lived shows. This is one of them, of course. There were only 16 episodes of the series, so I hope that we're able to continue looking at some of these short-lived series. And who knows, maybe that'll be one of our next themes.
Yep, that possibly could. All right, we thank everybody for watching today.
And we look forward to seeing you next time.
All right, have a great day, everybody.